To see you.
Always great to see you, Annette.
All right, let's talk about this market and the statistics, the lack of inventory. Is this Groundhog Day from last time we spoke?
Annette, we feel like every time that we get together, I feel like a broken record. And, I wish I could shake this market up a lot more. We are just seeing, again, nobody selling. And so the lack of inventory has been an issue. And ironically, us as Ottawaians or whatever we want to call us as Ottawa civilians, we know how to handle the winter. We are, hardy and love our canal skates and love our beaver tails and everything else. Yet, what's really interesting about residential markets is the fact that during the cold seasons, we have a tendency to slow down, which is really interesting. And when I talk to my buyers and my sellers, whenever we get really cold, and January was definitely a cold month. Thanks, Rosie. Um, it was a very, very cold month, and yet it didn't affect the market this year. It really didn't. So what we saw, the Ottawa real estate market came out with a couple of numbers, as they always do every month, and just to kind of share them with you. So what we had is the past January, we had 936 sales within the month. Now, that is down only by 3%. Again, very, very cold January. On average, it's about 963. So, not a huge change there, even though it was, again, very cold. And out of that, we kind of break it down. So out of those sales, 661 were residential, where that was down only by 2%.
Right.
And 275 of them were condos, which was down 5%. Yet, if you think about it, when we look at the 5-year average, which I think is really important, you don't take year per year per year, but you look at the long-term average. And we are seeing a significant growth because the 5-year average is 840 sales, where, again, we were at 936.
Wow. We're still seeing multiple offers, right? I know a colleague of mine here, 12 houses he lost this week alone, putting offers on 12 houses going into multiples, and some of them over 100 grand still over asking. We're still seeing that.
We are. Again, broken record, lack of inventory. There are no homes for sale, and that's why a lot of people that I'm talking to, and for anyone listening to this, there's no reason to wait for the spring market. There absolutely is not, unless you have, a pool and an incredible backyard, to show off. There is no reason to wait for the spring market. So I encourage anyone who is thinking of selling this year that maybe get in touch with my team and or the realtor of choice and really just talk about kind of a plan of action, because we are seeing multiple offers left, right, and center. I know that one of my agents, he was looking at any 4-bedroom home between Stittsville, Canada, and Barrhaven and Manotick. All of those, that's a huge section, and he could only find 2.
Wow.
So,
wow. So we've talked about how this is still very much a seller's market, that if you want to sell your home right now, you're one of only a few that are doing that. There's just not enough homes for sale. So we're going into multiple offers. Everybody's fighting for the same home. So then the price goes up, because the way it goes in our city, you don't know what other people are bidding. You're not privy to that. So you may be bidding $50,000 more than the guy next to you. So a lot of people, I think, once they get the home, even if they've won that bid and there was 10 people bidding and way to go you got the house, I think at the end you might question, well, how much did I overpay? Did I overpay? Does the value of this house going to hold now? What's your answer to that?
yeah. So it's a great question, and we hear that all the time. And what I say is, the fact is that two things. You probably didn't overpay, and that word just makes me cringe a little bit, because what I want all the buyers out there to think about is, what does this home, mean to you? If this is going to be a 5, 10, 20-year home for you, if this is the home that you're going to sit in, then, think about what that means to you. You got the location that you wanted, you got the floor plan that you wanted, and you were going to be there for a while. If you think about the fact that everyone in your area is probably paying, let's say, 700,000 in that market, and you happen to pay, I don't know, let's just say 720. No one else is going to sell their home below 720. They're just not. And so I want every buyer out there to think about the long term, because it is the biggest investment yet. With my team and, and any good realtor out there is going to guide you through this process and guide you in the fact that we will not let you overpay per se, right? So the biggest thing is that think about the long-term plan, sit down and talk to your realtor. We will provide you with comparables and everything else, and then you go from there. And the biggest thing that I tell my buyers is, I call it the cringe factor. At a certain point, we stop, right? I just won in multiple offers last night, and yet they were like, this is our final number. And I'm like, I'm okay with that. I don't want you to go higher, yet I'm okay with that, especially since this is going to be your 20-year home.
Right.
And so that's the biggest thing that buyers need to keep in mind.
Kind of like asking yourself that question, if I lost this house by $1,000, can I live with that, right? Have I reached the max, or would I, have wished I had spent just that one more $1,000 to get this house? There are things that people need to know too, like when it comes to putting in that offer, that having all their ducks in a row are really important. Can you run down through some of them?
Sure, absolutely. So when you're a buyer, there is obviously certain things that you need to consider. And when we go through an agreement of purchase and sale, I really focus on page 1, page 2, and page 6. So page 1 is all about the stuff that everybody is talking about. So first we need to talk about price. And as you said in the price, if you are going to multiple, you don't always have to, yet if you're going to go into multiple, what is that price point for you? And the price point, as you've talked about with several mortgage people here on air, you have to know what your mortgage rate is. And I often tell people, please get pre-approved, and your pre-approval is good for 90 days. They did not raise rates, as we know, yet getting that pre-approval before they raise rates, which we are hearing, get that pre-approval, because then you will hold into that rate, okay? The second one is, ironically, people don't think about it, is deposit. Now, deposit is not in addition to the purchase price. Deposit is part of that, what I call the pot, the big pot. Deposits for the past little while have been very, very low in Ottawa, and they are starting to rise, rightly so. So with a deposit, you need to know how much you're going to put down in order to, what I call the gentleman's handshake. You need to put money down in order to make this agreement stick. Without a deposit, you cannot move anything. So in our market right now, we are seeing 2 to 3, 5% range. The more deposit that you have down when you're making an agreement, the stronger your offer becomes. So no longer are the days where Ottawa was notoriously low, where other cities like Toronto had like 10% deposit. So we are seeing that as well.
Or into page 2 and page 6, I believe, are the pages there we were getting into of the agreements. But before we do want to get to a couple of questions. So let's start with the questions, perhaps. Brian writes in, we all know how important it is to have your house interior looking its best for showings. What kind of shape does the garage interior need to be in, i.e. cluster?
Yeah, no, great question, Brian. I get that asked a lot. You know what, Brian? The fact is, everybody knows that you are moving, right? So as long as it doesn't look like piles of like, a mishmash, and you put your boxes in the garage, you are good. You are absolutely good. People know that you are moving, right? That's why you're selling. You are moving. And so as long as they can see that the garage is either a single or a double, that you can get a car in there, it is okay to put boxes in there. Obviously, we don't want to see, again, mountains of stuff that you need to, call got junk in. Just as long as it's an organized,
Right.
filled garage, you're good.
All
You're
right.
good.
All right. Organized chaos, if we can say it that way. Stephen,
Organized.
organized
Yes.
chaos, right? Okay. Stephen writes in, I have a home that is going through probate. Should I list it now or wait for it to be for it to clear probate?
You know what, Stephen, I just went through this myself. It is a great question. So, Stephen, two things that I ask you. How is probate? And for those of you who don't understand probate, so it's when, unfortunately, someone passes away and then the home is left to the estate. And probate is when the lawyers are able to clear the title in order for the home to sell. Now, Stephen, what I ask you, there are a couple of things, and I would love to chat with you, so feel free to give me a call. The fact is that, is it a contested probate? Like, is the will being contested at any point in time? Or is everyone on board, the lawyers are good, and probate will clear easily within a short period of time? The other thing is, when I just went through a probate with one of my buyers, originally they said 6 weeks and it ended up being 8 months.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
we just need to be clear in the fact that you can sell now, especially during the market that we have. We just need to know your situation a little bit more and find out if it's going to be cleared soon, then absolutely, because we are seeing closes, homes being sold now for March and April. So it's a little bit of a two-pronged answer, yet I'm happy to discuss it with him further. But that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, thanks for the question there on that one. It's funny, I'm reading another fun question. Will our kids ever leave the nest with these costs? I mean, we love them, but come on. Is this the new norm? I think that's a funny one because, I had this conversation a couple of days ago about millennials being squeezed out. That couldn't you, even if you're, 20 to 45 years old and you're a single person, can you even afford to buy a house in this city on one income?
Yep. So what we are seeing now, Annette, and it's a great question, and I feel everyone's, I feel that question, and I know the pain, and I know it's really frustrating. And for those who are thinking about that, this is not a bubble. We do not expect it to crash. So it's kind of the new norm, unfortunately. So what we are seeing, and the Ottawa Real Estate Board is seeing this as well, the new millennials, the new home buyers, parents may have to help them a little bit. I have several buyers right now where the parents are helping them and they're buying condos. Condos are seeing such a huge resurgence because, a single family home is unattainable, right? The other thing that we're seeing is a resurgence for homes in the periphery, right? So we're not necessarily staying here. We're seeing resurgence in Rockland, Almont, Cornwall, in those areas prior, because you've got the 4-lane highway, right?
Yeah.
So we're seeing more of that. Carleton Place is now growing, and like the best restaurant in all of Canada is in Carleton Place. So so we're seeing that. So I think sometimes, we talk very frequently
Yeah.
about, having the perfect, white picket fence, not necessarily attainable when you're 20 and 30.
Sure.
Think about that condo, think about the investment,
Right.
and think about getting in the market, which is more important.
I love it. I love it. And you know, we didn't get the time to talk too much more about the other elements, which is, you know, inclusions, exclusions, rental items, all of the things that can kind of go into that deal. But that's all stuff that if anybody has questions, they certainly can reach out to you, Colleen. I know you would answer those gladly for them. If you need to talk to Colleen or a realtor, here's Colleen's information right there. You can get in touch with her, ColleenLyle.com. Colleen, thank you as always. Great chatting with you on the market.